Welcome to Rugby Saturday Southwest. I'm your host, Aaron Rivera. Joining me is Carl Hawkins, my co-host. Carl just got back from Spain visiting his daughter. How was that, Carl?
Well, I had a really good time with her, but I also got to do a little bit of rugby stuff while I was over there.
Mm-hmm.
So we can talk about that here.
Absolutely. And we're also joined by Dave Bracken, the coach of the Rio Rancho Rebels, as well as the coach of the New Mexico AllStars squads.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on.
Well, let me start out here by setting the stage for what's going on in rugby from a perspective I got to pick up while I was over there. As Dave mentioned while we were just chatting a minute ago, Spain just qualified for the last position in the Olympic sevens for the Rio de Janeiro Olympics, and hopefully it'll still come off. They're having all kinds of problems now that they've declared financial bankruptcy or whatever. I don't know who's going to bail them out. But I got an opportunity while I was there to talk with some Spanish athletes and to visit the training center where the Spanish team is working out. And I'll tell you what, if there's ever a more beautiful, more equipped facility, I have never seen it. I've been to the U.S. Eagle camps. I've been all around. I've been to camps in England. I've been to the Manchester United camp. And Real Madrid, the La Liga and the UEFA soccer champions have who also have the highest paid athlete on earth playing for them, Ronaldo, $88 million a year. They have a facility that is just off the charts, and Spain is on fire about their rugby sevens. And United States is going to be there, and we're putting together players and building a base for eventually becoming the world champions, I hope. And one other comment before we get into talking about what's going on locally is I've had kind of a grin on my face for a few days. Britain has won the first 2 rounds of the Australian tour. And this could be the first time in the history of the British rugby sweeping Australia. So the next match will be the final in Sydney, and we'll see that they've won 2 test matches in Australia. So big time for British rugby.
And those Australians would be pretty upset to lose 3 straight games, especially to a team like Britain.
A team like Britain. Listen to that. Australia is number 2 in the world, and Britain is shutting them down. I mean, really decisive victories. It's just incredibly good. So now let's talk about what's going on locally. Huh?
So Dave, you coach the Rio Rancho Rebels. They,
Yes.
as most people know, state champions right now.
Yes.
Won the second one in their club history. So I want to talk about a little bit how you guys won that game. I know it was a close one right down to the last minute.
Absolutely. The very last minute came down to an individual skill set that helped out with the players. They started to play together as a team. We emphasize team effort more than anything else. Yes, there's a me and team, but to get to the rest of the aspect, you're able to see players really turn around and show the quality of the game. That very last play that's referenced, set from a ruck, we were able to see the ball going wide to Zachary Dodd, who took the ball all the way down to the final, just a meter short of the try zone. And the process of getting tackled, he practiced what we call self-rucking. It's an Aussie style of rucking actually introduced by the women's sevens team out of Australia. And it is a very special way to be able to release the ball once you get tackled, get to your feet, and you are allowed to continue playing. And he did it textbook. He's been training for this all season, got tackled, released the ball, got to his feet, and scored the try at the very end, which put our team up at the very end over La Cueva.
And it was pretty exciting there because La Cueva had just come out, and we're seeing the play right now. One man to beat. All he had to do was get past him. He did. But La Cueva had just finally got themselves back into the game, and then their hopes were dashed against the rocks, you might say, when you guys won the ball back in that ruck.
Yes, yes.
Now tell us a little bit about that self-rucking, because I remember we were up here with an Aardvark who is a South African. What's his name? The South African guy?
Giru. Yes.
Giru, yeah. We had him up here, and he was going, I don't know if that was good. I don't know if that was good. It looked like a knock-on to me. And so you call, that's a self-rucking.
It's called self-rucking, which the law states in rugby that when a player has been tackled, they must release the ball. They are allowed fully to be able to pop up to their feet, pick up the ball, and continue going if they are not held. Now, the defense must release the tackle player, and they are given every opportunity to play the ball as well. There was a side AR that was able to be there in time to be able to make sure, one, did the player release the ball upon getting tackled? And you were able to see from the clip, the player did release the ball upon getting tackled. The second part was he was on his feet when he picked up the ball again. And the third was he grounded the ball to the try line upon getting into the try zone.
Now, had you staged this? Had you talked to the assistant referee and told him he better be watching? I mean, come on. That was a slick maneuver.
LaCueva has been doing it for many years. We finally are getting into a point proficiently. There's 4 major teams in New Mexico. And actually, Demetrio Cardell with Los Alamos, fantastic team. They don't have the numbers to be able to do full 15s, but in playing 10s, they are deadly on the field, and the ability of players to be able to get tackled, get to their feet, play the ball again. You can't just let one-on-one tackle situations. You have to bring them down 2 at a time to be able to make sure that you're able to either turn over the ball or stop that progression from a single player continually to self-route.
Yeah, that's good stuff. That's a very key component of playing sevens, that continuous flow.
Absolutely.
We'll probably see a lot of that in the Olympics.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well,
so women came up with that, huh?
We got about 1 minute left now, so I know you do a little bit of officiating as well. How tough is it to make those calls when you're trying to run down the field, especially on a breakaway that late?
It is extremely tough. I've been officiating for a number of years at all the different levels within rugby within New Mexico. And you have just a few minutes to be able to see what's going on, be in the best position possible to make a call. And then once you blow that whistle as a referee, you have to make that decision. Fortunately, in the finals, we were able to have assistant referees as well. So if you can reach out and say, I didn't get a clear view. Did you get a better view? Because this is what I saw.
Mm-hmm. Well, awesome. Congratulations again. You know, it's pretty big to have a second championship, 3rd appearance for Rio Rancho. And we'll be right back after these messages for the to talk a little bit about the AllStars. Welcome back to Rugby Saturday Southwest. I'm Aaron Rivera, joined by my co-host Carl Hawkins and Dave Bracken, the coach of the Rio Rancho Rebels and the New Mexico All-Star squad. So Dave, you guys just went up to Denver this last weekend.
Yes, we went up there for the Rocky Mountain Challenge. It was the 15th annual Rocky Mountain Challenge that has been put on for the player development with USA Rugby.
That's fun.
They had 19 all-star varsity teams.
Yes.
And 14 junior varsity teams.
Yes.
That's a lot of rugby. Where do they come from?
A lot of rugby. So there were over 14 states represented at Denver in the Rocky Mountain Challenge. And it was actually pretty interesting to see because a lot of us were all in the same hotel, and the parking lot was just filled with tour buses and rugby players. I got to say that breakfast buffet line was a little bit of a battle to go through in the mornings.
Yeah, that's good. So tell us about these teams. How were they configured? How are they represented there?
So these teams, the varsity teams, were with USA Rugby. They changed the varsity program to being only juniors and seniors in high school from what they just finished. So with that being stated, a lot of these teams pulled in all of the clubs of their particular state, showed up with on varsity programs 30, 40 players on average.
Holy cow.
Just bringing them in. And with the laws that were put into place specifically for the tournament, you had some teams that were able to bring in unlimited substitutions, unlimited substitutions on the front rows. So players were able
not
to
just some teams, all teams, right?
All teams.
Okay, I was going to say.
Depth was critical.
Who set those rules?
Depth was critical.
Whoever brings enough substitutions to
and
do unlimited
how
on the
many
front row.
players did we have that you took up there?
We ended up with 20 players going up there.
Holy
we
cow.
actually took one freshman that played with another team for junior varsity, and we actually had one mid-school player actually go up with us as well, playing in the mid-school bracket for the Rocky Mountain Challenge.
So the kids you took up there with you got plenty of rugby playing time and plenty of experience against top teams from all around the country, huh?
And when they are looking at these teams, you're seeing what the future of USA Rugby truly is.
Wow, how powerful.
Southern California, Utah, they were able to get some great impact and seeing what they need to play at to be able to get to the next level.
So this is the most significant of 6 regional tournaments that
Absolutely.
teams go to? Wow, there's some funding that is involved in that, isn't there?
There is. One of the other teams that we got to know very well was telling us that their budget for all state teams is $20,000.
Holy cow.
They go out and they fundraise $20,000 so that all their players can have the proper gear, the equipment to make sure that they have the facilities available to them, and then travel in comfort so that they can actually get there rather than having to work out just to be able to get off the bus so they can walk in time.
Did you guys have $200 or
we actually, New Mexico Youth Rugby was able to help us out with transportation and hitting us up with the hotel rooms. The players had to fundraise for themselves to be able to bring in, to be able to cover food expenses. And then the jerseys were leftovers from 3 years ago. For us to be able to really continue with the program, we have to develop it even further with making sure that we have financial backing to take up a varsity program.
This is unfortunately, in New Mexico, we have a tradition of running on tight budgets and having players that are underfunded going out and competing in the name of our state, in our city, and it's very important that people realize that in order for us to be competitive at a very high level, we've got to have the support and the backing. And occasionally we make it to the top. I mean, look at the New Mexico Vatos, 2 years in a row, national sevens, small college sevens champions. And that takes individual effort, and that takes the effort of communities. I mean, and we've got to start putting communities together to support these kind of efforts.
Absolutely.
So tell us about your results now that I've set the stage for you. We need some money so that we can get better results than we had, right?
So we did go 0 for 4 up there in Rocky Mountain Challenge. Our players have been playing together for the last 5 weeks, representing over 50% of the teams in New Mexico.
Awesome.
Particularly of the northern area of Albuquerque, and we even had Los Alamos players involved with us as well. Going up there, though, we made success when the players played the game that they love here in New Mexico. They were able to put points on the board. They were able to keep up with everybody else that was out there on the field. That they were hitting just like everybody else. And they realized that when they played the New Mexico style of rugby, that what we put into place for them, it wasn't stoppable. They were able to get the ball out wide and punch it in and score tries.
So it's really support, numbers,
absolutely,
and showing up with a style of play that is competitive, which we have. So we got one.
Yep.
If we got the other two,
Yep.
we go up there with 50, and we go up there with a budget that allows our kids to stay in a decent place and have good uniforms and be representative.
Absolutely.
They can compete with these guys.
Absolutely. Now, one thing with the All-State program is that they have 3-tiered system. So they have a two years of middle school students. And then once those 2 years of middle school students playing at this high level, they go into a junior varsity program. 2 more years, and then they go into the varsity program. So by the time they get to the varsity level, 6 years of competitive rugby at an extremely high level.
Oh, yeah.
The average time that we have with our players has been 3 years.
Aaron and I were working the University of New Mexico Utah Utes match, and in which UNM just got crushed, and the Utes were number 4 and number 5 in the nation, and went pretty far in the national college championships. And we looked at the history of the players on that team. Right, these are like college freshmen, juniors, and they've got 8 years of rugby experience.
Yes.
And and we look at UNM, and they got 1, 2 started this season, played last year. And the depth that's coming out of the high school programs in the state and they're going to end up in the University of New Mexico, and they're going to end up in New Mexico's club teams, and it's going to change. It's going to revolutionize rugby around here.
Absolutely.
And you know, we're developing those teams. That's all over the Southwest, trying to build up the rugby teams. I know you're trying to work with the AllStars. How do you kind of select the kids to go up with you? How do you try and develop who will be a team together?
So we had an open door policy with the team. Everybody was welcome. All they had to do was be willing to show the commitment to be able to step onto the field and play with us. Now, as they started working together and teaching them a different style approach of rugby and a thinking game of rugby, we saw that some players in the positions they traditionally played, like fly half, all of a sudden that was a more better fit for them to play wing, outside center, fullback. We had some props that fit a whole lot better at locks or at flanks because of their awareness of the game.
Oh, that's really got to be a tough decision always, every single.
Always, and I have a great support staff that worked with me.
Selections, no one's ever happy with selections anyway, but well, opportunity is what we need. Now, there are several things going on with training programs, right?
Yes.
We're aware of one training program that this Rugby Excellence Training Camp. Aaron, you've got some stuff on that,
yeah,
right?
Also known as the Rising Star Rugby Academy, and they're leading the way for the 2016 Olympics. It's under the direction of Lauren Broussard, who's actually from Monsanto here in Albuquerque. He played with a couple of different teams as well as some rugby league out in England. And their vision is to develop local talent, get them up to the next level, give some pathways so that the athletes can have success. And, you know, it's like a lot of people's goal. The idea is to try and advance rugby. You know, we want to make it big, we want to make it strong in the most efficient way possible.
Now that academy is focused on Arizona, right? That's up in Flagstaff. What are we doing here?
We are working also with Tom Goslow over at UNM, who's put together a great training program.
He's done wonderful things for UNM.
He's done fantastic things with UNM, but he's also recognized the issue of putting together a supply route of players that have experience coming into UNM.
He's no dummy.
He's investing in that. New Mexico Youth Rugby is also investing in rugby camps in New Mexico. I believe that in the Santa Fe 10s coming up in August, we will also have an Impact Academy here to be able to provide training for athletes to be able to make sure that they are furthering their careers as well.
Great stuff.
Really exciting. Hopefully it's going to be good for the future of rugby here in New Mexico.
Absolutely.
But thank you so much for joining us, Dave. We'll be right back with Bill Orzen and Ray Marrone for a little segment about the Albuquerque Aardvarks next.
Welcome back to Rugby Saturday Southwest. I'm Carl Hawkins, and I'm hosting a new segment here about rugby in the southwestern United States. And we're going to be bringing in representatives from clubs that know the history of their individual teams and bring everybody up to speed on where this all came from. We're starting it with two founding members of the Albuquerque Aardvarks, who are 43 years old this year, founded in 1973. On my right is Bill Orzen, and on his right is Ray Marrone. Bill, tell me about that first Aardvark team and the origins of that Aardvark team.
Well, the first Aardvark team basically was assembled by those of us who had played rugby before. Usually it was on the East Coast or near, as far away as Pittsburgh, which is
Ray's hometown?
Ray's hometown.
And a few foreigners.
And a few, excuse me, and a few foreigners, as they say. And we played our first game against the University of Arizona. We had never played any other team before.
And that was the original University of New Mexico team?
That was the original University of New Mexico
on
rugby
Johnson
club.
Gym Field.
Johnson Gym Field.
Johnson Gym, right.
They were probably newly planted at that point, weren't they?
Well, did they even have grass? No, they had grass. And the University of Arizona came and visited us. We were thrilled that anybody would come that far. Unfortunately, but we lost 50-0. We were, as I said, we were new, we were inexperienced, but fortunately rugby got its start with that one game. As was said, there were no other clubs in New Mexico, so we spent a lot of time traveling to Arizona. To Colorado, which had a great number of teams.
Kind of the home of rugby up there. So, what about the Santa Fe team, Ray? You said earlier the Santa Fe team was next after UNM.
Right. The reason, like Bill said, the players came from all over the state actually, and we formed in Albuquerque. Pat Whalen from Santa Fe, Butch Rouse from Gallup. We had Poncho Elliston ran the Living Batch bookstore. He helped start the club.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Right. And we had some graduate students. We had one from France. We had Lou McGill from New Zealand play, and Bill Orzen, who used to look like Einstein. He came from New York. But we eventually figured out we needed another club or two here. So we decided to take 8 players that volunteered, that lived in Albuquerque, would go to Santa Fe for 1 year to help them form a club up there.
And they got a big stipend, right?
Right, yeah.
Oh, it was huge.
They bought us a beer at the club. So we actually did for 1 year, 8 of us went up there and formed the Santa Fe Rugby Club. And that year we won the High Desert.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Who was on that traveling group of nomads that went up there?
Bill, myself, Rick Zerby, Herb Howe, Joe Cedillo.
Famous names in Albuquerque rugby, I'll tell you.
In fact, that team did so well that a couple of guys didn't want to come back. But I had promised the older guys in Albuquerque that we'd be back, so we kind of split up a little bit.
Well,
but
tell us a little bit about the name of the Aardvark name. I know there's a lot of controversy about that, so you guys might have to argue about it a little bit. We got a couple of minutes. I want to hit that, and then I would like to talk about some of the highlights of how far the Aardvarks have come.
Well, our practice facility at the time was at the then University of Albuquerque, now Pope Pius X High School. And we were looking for a name, and we just couldn't find anything. And there I believe it was on the front page of the Albuquerque Journal, an aardvark had been born at the zoo. And we put it together, Albuquerque Aardvarks, etc.
Albuquerque Rugby Club, Aardvark. It just flowed off our lips.
That was it, huh?
That was
it was on the paper? You didn't open up the phone book? I've heard all these stories.
Well, the phone book, we went to officially get the name. We went to a bar and we decided, we have to. Do you like this name? We have to decide it. And Peter Mott says, well, let's just take the first name in the phone book. And it happened to be Aardvark, so it fit. So that's it. And then we could drink.
That's great. That's great. So it was nothing more auspicious than that.
Yeah, well, just seeing the birth of an aardvark. And
so what are some of the highlights of the Aardvarks in terms of their competitive level nationally? We've got about 30, 45 seconds left. You can probably list the key moments, the highest level of play that was been achieved.
I think the Aardvark style of play we were limited with numbers, obviously, but we had some great athletes. And our backs were tremendous, probably some of the best in the country back then. So we really excelled at sevens. We won 2 national sevens championships. Came in twice
up in Denver. Huh?
Up in Denver. We came in twice second in about a 4 or 5 year span. It was pretty amazing for the amount of people we had, but we had some great talent. Hal Hames, Bobby Cole. We had some incredible athletes. And in the 15s, we went to the final 8. We lost a game against St. Louis Bombers 6-3. We would have went to the Final Four that year if Bill Russell didn't referee that game. I have to throw that in, Bill. I love you, but I had to throw that in.
And then in recent history, the Aardvarks were in the final national championship game against, I think, San Mateo or some California team up in
The only distinction Glendale. I want to make there is that back in the 70s, we were one division, the whole country. We played against every club. We played against Albuquerque, all the big boys. Now we're Division II. It's not to take anything away from it, but it's just a little different distinction
That's
there.
right. A lot of stuff has changed in rugby over the years.
Right.
Well, thank you guys for joining us and helping us create the nexus for this whole rugby club history book that we're putting together.
And can I say one more thing? Our life depends on the youth rugby, and we really need to get out and help these guys. So let's support youth rugby.
Yeah, any support would be greatly appreciated.
There we go. Well, thank you very much. This is Carl Hawkins from Rugby Saturday. Goodbye.